Tensions between China and the Philippines over the disputed South China Sea are increasing. The Chinese Coast Guard accused a Philippine ship of ramming one of its vessels, which Manila denies.
The South China Sea has become one of the most dangerous flashpoints in Asia, a place where warships shadow fishing boats, and a single misstep could spark a regional crisis. And right at the center of this storm is the Philippines. In the past few years, Manila has shifted dramatically in its foreign policy. Once cautious and diplomatic, it's now openly confronting Beijing. The Philippines has strengthened its military ties with the United States, reopened American bases that were shut down decades ago, and joined joint naval exercises that clearly target China's growing influence in the region. To many observers, it looks like a bold, patriotic move, a smaller country daring to stand up against a powerful neighbor. Western media praises this as courage. Washington calls it defending freedom of navigation. But beneath the slogans and photo ops lies a far more complicated reality. Because while the Philippines may believe it's asserting independence, this new gamble could easily backfire, both economically and strategically. In trying to show strength, Manila may be walking straight into a trap that risks its sovereignty, its stability, and its future prosperity. The truth is, the Philippines is playing a dangerous game in one of the most geopolitically sensitive regions on Earth, and if it's not careful, it may end up hurting itself far more than China. Let's break down why this gamble against China might not end well for the Philippines. Number 1. Geography doesn't lie. The Philippines can't escape its neighborhood. The first thing to understand is geography. The Philippines is part of Asia, not North America. Its biggest neighbor and trading partner isn't the United States, but China, which is just a few hundred kilometers away. In 2023, China remained the Philippines' largest trading partner, with total trade reaching $37 billion, according to data from the Philippine Statistics Authority. The U.S., on the other hand, accounted for only around $22 billion. That means China plays a much larger role in the Philippine economy than Washington does. Whether it's exports, imports, or tourism, China's influence is deeply rooted. By aligning too closely with the U.S. militarily, Manila risks antagonizing its biggest economic partner, a dangerous move for a developing nation that needs investment and growth more than ever. Just look at what happened when South Korea deployed the THAAD missile system in 2017. Beijing retaliated by restricting Chinese tourism and boycotting Korean goods, costing South Korea over $7 billion in losses. If China could do that to South Korea, imagine what could happen to the Philippines, whose economy is even more dependent on Chinese trade. Number 2. U.S. promises sound strong until they're not. The Philippines believe America will come to its rescue if things ever escalate. But history shows that U.S. promises often come with conditions or delays. Yes, there's a mutual defense treaty between the U.S. and the Philippines signed in 1951. It says that if either country is attacked, the other will act to meet the common dangers. But here's the catch. Act doesn't mean fight. The U.S. could choose diplomacy, sanctions, or even delay military intervention altogether. Just ask Ukraine. The U.S. gave weapons and aid, but not soldiers. Or Taiwan, still waiting for clarity on whether Washington would truly defend it in a real war. In short, America's support comes when it benefits Washington, not necessarily Manila. And in this case, the U.S. sees the Philippines mainly as a strategic pawn, a convenient location for military bases near China. Washington recently gained access to 9 Philippine bases, including sites in Luzon close to Taiwan. But while this boosts U.S. military reach, it also makes the Philippines a potential target in any conflict between the U.S. and China. As former President Rodrigo Duterte bluntly said, "If war breaks out, we will be the first to suffer. America will be safe. We will be the battleground." That's the reality of being caught between two superpowers. Number 3. China offers opportunity, not just tension. It's easy to paint China as the enemy in the South China Sea. But the truth is, China has also been one of the Philippines' most important sources of growth. During Duterte's term, relations with Beijing improved dramatically. China pledged over $24 billion in loans and investments, funding infrastructure under the Build, Build, Build program. Projects like bridges, railways, and flood control systems were all backed by Chinese financing. In 2019, Chinese tourists were the second largest group visiting the Philippines, bringing in billions of dollars in revenue. When relations were warm, the Philippine economy grew steadily, and the two sides managed maritime issues through dialogue rather than confrontation. But under the new administration, ties have cooled. Manila has filed dozens of diplomatic protests against China, held joint patrols with the U.S., and allowed American access to key bases. In response, China has begun restricting trade, slowing tourism, and freezing some cooperative talks. If relations keep deteriorating, the Philippines could lose billions in potential investments, all for short-term political points. The irony? While Manila picks fights, other ASEAN countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand are quietly deepening their partnerships with China, balancing security and economy wisely. Number 4. ASEAN unity at risk. The Philippines is breaking the regional balance. For decades, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, has prided itself on neutrality and unity. Members avoid taking sides between the U.S. and China. But lately, the Philippines has been breaking from that tradition, openly siding with Washington and criticizing China at every turn. This shift risks dividing ASEAN and weakening the group's influence in global diplomacy. Countries like Malaysia, Vietnam, and Indonesia prefer to manage disputes with China through quiet negotiations, not public confrontations. Even Singapore's former foreign minister George Yeo once said, "If ASEAN is forced to choose between the U.S. and China, ASEAN will split." That's exactly what might happen, and Manila would be partly responsible. China, meanwhile, is using diplomacy to build stronger relations with other ASEAN members. Through the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, the world's largest trade deal, Beijing has become even more economically intertwined with Southeast Asia. If the Philippines isolates itself within ASEAN, it loses both economic and political leverage, becoming more dependent on U.S. support. And number 5, playing with fire, the risk of escalation. Perhaps the most dangerous consequence of the Philippines' current strategy is the risk of miscalculation. In recent months, tensions have escalated dramatically around the Second Thomas Shoal. Philippine ships and Chinese Coast Guard vessels have had multiple near collisions, with both sides accusing each other of aggression. Each incident brings the region one step closer to a real military clash, something that could devastate the Philippines. China's military budget is over $230 billion, nearly 50 times larger than the Philippines' defense spending of just $4.6 billion. In a direct confrontation, the outcome is obvious. The U.S. might not even intervene directly, because doing so could trigger a full-scale war, something Washington wants to avoid. So, if an accident turns deadly, it's the Philippines that will pay the highest price, not the U.S. The smarter path is diplomacy, dialogue, not escalation. Even China's foreign ministry has repeatedly said that disputes can be resolved through friendly consultation. But that requires political will, something Manila seems to be losing under pressure from Washington. So, what should the Philippines do? If the Philippines truly wants to protect its national interest, it should look at what other Asian countries are doing. Take Malaysia. It also has territorial disputes with China, but it handles them quietly, maintaining trade and investment ties. or Vietnam, which manages its differences with China while keeping economic relations strong. Both countries have benefited immensely from Chinese trade and infrastructure cooperation without becoming puppets of either side. The Philippines can do the same. It can defend its sovereignty without hostility and cooperate economically without surrendering independence. It's not about choosing between the US or China. It's about choosing what's best for the Filipino people. Because at the end of the day, jobs, investment, and peace matter more than politics. The Philippines' current path, siding too closely with the US and challenging China head-on, might look like strength, but it's actually a dangerous gamble. It risks the country's economy, divides ASEAN, and could drag the nation into conflicts it cannot win. China isn't perfect, no country is, but its rise has created opportunities for all of Asia. If the Philippines can engage with China wisely, it could benefit from trade, infrastructure, and stability for decades to come. But if it continues down the path of confrontation, it may end up isolated, economically weakened, and caught in a war of other people's making. In geopolitics, sometimes the bravest move isn't to fight, but to think long-term. And for the Philippines, the smartest move might just be to rebuild bridges with the very neighbor it now risks turning into an enemy.